For today, we're going to finish our discussion on Chapter 9, and we're basically right on schedule. Just as a review of the dates that we're looking to hit, April 3rd for our homework assignments, including the project. If you have any questions on those, please let me know. I will have some time today, or allow you some time to work on any of your homework that may not be quite ready. Then on Thursday is our exam. Did we agree on when I was going to open that up? I can open it up earlier. So instead of that.
Are you going to open it up before the weekend, or is it?
Oh, that was last week.
That was last week.
Come on, Carla. It should be open. It's not?
There's Jeff here. Blackie used to do that in the classroom.
Oh, that's nothing. One time my payroll instructor asked me to leave the classroom so that because I missed a test, but she forgot that, she completely forgot about me, and I just came back half an hour late. I'm just like, hey, I'm still here.
That's exactly what my personal tax sure did. So I totally forgot to do the tax returns for the first project. So yeah, as he was going over, he goes, "Oh, out of the group."
So, yes, it's already open, I believe. So you can take it when you wish to. Then Thursday, you can still come. I will be here for the test. Or you can take it at home if you prefer.
I'll come.
So then next week, then Tuesday, we start our next chapter, which is Chapter 11. For today, then, I want to just do some review quick. I did complete the big problem, which all we had left was the balance sheet. So I did grab and finish that balance sheet out. I'm not expecting you to write any numbers down. Just be aware that it's on my notes for today's class. And to get the cash amount, $11,450,000, I actually had to go to the cash budget report, which shows that ending balance right here at the end. $11,450,000 is the balance in the balance sheet for the cash account. So I just finished that up just so we can say it was completed. I do want to run through a cash receipts projection to start off today, and that is problem 65 on our book. Just so we get a feel for this, there are at least 2 or 3 questions on projecting how much cash is going to be collected in a particular month. So I'd like to cover that first. I then will jump to the handouts that I did get for the pre-test questions as well. And then basically that'll wrap it up for today. So here we have this particular cash budget. They say that 25% of their services are for cash. So I'm just going to write that percentage down. 25% of sales are cash. Obviously, the 75% are on credit. Then it says 10% of the fees are collected in the month. So I'm going to go down to my August because that is the first period. So 10% in the first month. And obviously, I'll have one for September. That lands in August for September itself. 60% of the fees are collected in the month following the service. So 60% of July will land in August. And then 60% of August will land in, which is the second month, in September. 26% of the fees are collected in the second month following the service. So that's why we have June in here. In the second month. which would land in August. And then the 26% of July would go into September. Just trying to go down the percentages as we go. 4% of the fees are never collected. It does say on here that if and when they do pay in that second month, there'll be a 3% late charge added. So here, we're going to have to increase it by 3% for late, and that will also happen in September. Late fee of 3% on those 26% amounts. So let's start with our cash sales in August. We had total sales of 194. %25 of 194 is $48,500. If we were to do the September sales, 25% of 240,000 is 60. So we got our first starting cash sale. This is problem 65 if you're following along. We might as well do the August and September amounts, right? So I'm going to jump down to August and September since we're there. And for August, we have to take 10% of 75%. So I'm going to multiply this by 75% times the 194. And the same thing is true in September. I'm going to take 10% or 75% of their sales, and we collect 10% of that. So 75% of 240,000. Remember, 75% is the amount on credit. 25 was cash. So we're collecting 10% of those numbers in the month of the sale. So if I were to do August, starting up here, 10% of 75% of 194. $14,550 would be collected in the month of August. And then 75% of 240 is 200. 10% of 200,000 is 20,000. Goes in September. Also for August, 60% of 75, right? So I'm going to go back to my 75% times 194. That'll go in September. So 75% again of 194 is 145,500 times 60% is 87,300 for September. Remember, the collections are based on credit sales only. So let's go to July. July is 1 month previous to August. July sales were 190. So again, I'm going to go 75% of 190 for July, which lands in August. $142,500 times 0.6 gives me 85,500 collected in August, the month following the sale. The same is true of the 26%. I got 37,050. And 3%. Carla, am I doing something wrong?
Is it the September one in 18,000?
So July sales are 190 times 0.75. That's my credit portion times 0.26.
Right.
The red
No,
one.
no, the September one. Like the one
Where
all the
you
way
have
down there.
20,000.
Yeah.
Shoot, you're right. It should be 18. How long did you have your hand up, Carla?
I don't know.
Sorry about that. Carla was right. Thank you for checking that, Carla.
Mhm.
Now the math is right. Any other numbers that I'm not good on? Just need the penalty number here yet. What's 3% of 37,050?
1,111.50.
How about just make it 12? Can I do that? Round it to $1?
1,112.
It's hard to get old guys, you don't hear very well either. 1,112. That look better? I think we're done with July with the penalty. So let's then go to June. And there's actually just the second month. There's nothing in August collected from our June sales. Oh, excuse me, nothing in September. So that's nothing. But August, we do collect the second month worth of credit sales. So June had 200,000. So 75% of 200,000 gives me how much? Times 26%. So it's 150 times 0.26. I got 39,000. And a 3% 2% penalty is $1,170. This is the penalty. I know, I just open up the door. All right, someone help me with the totals here. Does anybody have the totals? Or at least verify that I'm doing this correctly. For August, I got 188,720. Hope that's right. Is that good?
Yeah.
Thank you. And then for September, with the penalty, I got 203,462. There's my total there. So there'll be a couple questions regarding a cash receipts budget. How do we collect them? Again, you may have something like this in Excel. You could do that if you wish to and use that for your exam. It's up to you. Any thoughts on this? Okay. I do want to mention for the multiple choice questions that they're on page, basically page 480 to 482. A couple pages here. Just be aware of the definitions on those 2 pages for those multiple choice questions. The first one is dysfunctional behavior. I think everybody knows that. But also, what is meant by goal congruence? And it's the ability to have these reports align with management's goals, right? There is a congruence, there is a coming together of the goals set by both management and personnel. So that's what we want. This is what we want our budget reports to do, is to have this goal congruence. You cannot run an organization if everybody has a different goal, right? We have to be sure that we are on the same path. Another term that I would like you to know are some of these positive behavior type terms. Frequent feedback is always necessary whenever we do these budgets because they provide incentives for us. Both monetary, non-monetary. Non-monetary might be what? A vacation, an award, right? That kind of thing are sometimes given. A trip to Disney World. Okay, some more requirements. We should, in our budgeting process, always get feedback from everyone, right? Again, we can't have a buy-in to our our reports, our plans if we don't have everybody's participation. And there are some things that we have to be aware of whenever we ask for a participative budget. Is setting the standards too high or too low? What is meant by building slack in a budget? Also referred to as padding the budget. What does that mean?
We deliberately underestimate revenues or overestimate.
Yeah. Let's just work on the expense side. If I make my expenses at 100,000, really I only need 50, that's overstating, that's padding my budget. And that way I'm always gonna come out looking good. So that's a concern, right? And then pseudo participation. Management asks for input. But don't consider it. Right? That's pseudo participation. So it is very not encouraging. It's not encouraging when you ask for your employee their input and then really don't consider it. So pseudo means fake, right? That's the pretext to that particular. So know that definition. What does that mean? Pseudo participation. There's some other really cool ones. You talk about setting standards too high or too low. The other one is myopic behavior. This is on page 482. Happens a lot. Look to the short run, right? Rather than a long-term look. Myopic behavior. So if I'm based on my profit for this year, I'm going to maybe hold back on some costs, some expenses, but if there are maintenance costs and expenses, I could be hurt in the long term. So it's a short run view of our performance. So we want to be careful that we're not, again, rewarding employees based on a 1-year time frame or 1 month even. Myopic behavior. All right, so just take a look at those couple of pages and just be aware those definitions are there. The last part of today's class then is to finish the pre-test questions, I call them. This is that handout, that extra handout I gave to you. And we already did one on the first page. This is the one we completed last week because it wasn't aligned to our flexible budget reporting. And we predicted what the variance was on power, and we found that it was a favorable variance when compared to actual cost. Remember the terminology here, guys. This is an after-the-fact flexible budget, which means I flexed it to actual data units in this particular case, which was 19,000. So the budget was set based on 15,000. That's what we expected. But we actually made 19,000 pieces, which is also good. The next page of that packet then, guys, is another, I guess you could call it cash, but this time on the purchase end of it, cash disbursements. So let's take a look at this. This is probably one of your more complex problems that you'll see on Thursday. They produce a product, jar of jam, and we got October, November, and December. The requirement here is that we find out how much cost is paid out in November for purchases. So 3 months of data, but we're looking for the cash paid out in November. So they require, it says here, they would like to have 3% of the following month's production needs in ending inventory. On October 1st, the company had 1,625 pounds in inventory, and they pay 60 cents per pound. It buys berries on account, pays 40% in the month, and the remaining 60% in the month following. So we've got a lot of stuff going on here. We are expected to produce, expected levels of production for the fourth quarter is at the following. So let's start with October. And we've got 77,000. Kind of need November and December is what doing it. We want 3% of next month's sales. Oops, and 61,000. Remember, we want the cash paid out in November. So I've got 77,000 plus desired ending. Which is at 3% of next month's production needs. So 98,000 times 0.03. I got 2940. So I'm taking 3% of the 98,000 to get that 2940. So that gives me, I'm up to what? 79,940. But basically, I really can stop there. I don't need to go any further, I don't think. The reason being is I only need to do November. So let's do 3% of 61,000. And that 3% number is 1830. So I took 30% of the 61 to get the 1830. I now have a total of 99,830 units. I next subtract the 2940. And that gives me down to $96,890. This is units. This is what I need to get, right? This is what I need to purchase for. So I've added units for my ending, my desired ending for November. But remember, I'm carrying over October's ending into our beginning for November. This is basically like your Schedule 2 here, is what we're trying to do here. So how many pounds does it take to make one jar? How many pounds of berries? Half a pound. So now I multiply this by the 0.5 pounds. So my purchase needs now is, how much, do you have that, Brianna?
48,445.
I think I am gonna have to do October, ain't I? I will have to do October.
Where do you get the 50%?
That's actually half a pound. It's right in the first sentence. Each jar requires half a pound of berries, and that's what we're trying to do, is figure out how much we have to purchase for berries. So I need 48,000 pounds. What's the price per pound?
60 cents.
$29,067. How much do I pay in the month?
$40.
40% of the purchases in the month. So in reality, I'm only paying 40% of this in the month. This is why we have to do October. And 40% of this number is $11,626.80. We have to do the same thing for October, because remember, not only do we pay 40% in the month, we pay the 60% in the previous month. So that's why we gotta do October. So if I go back up here, the problem gives us the ending, so I'm gonna subtract the beginning. They give us the beginning of the month jars, 1,625 pounds of berries in inventory. Guys, I did this wrong. I have no way to fix it other than erase this. What did I do wrong, guys? I was trying to do Schedule 2 and I really didn't need to. Did you do yours in pen? I can keep the first three numbers. Ay, ay, ay. Sorry, guys. What I wanted to, or needed to do is multiply these by half a pound. These are units. The 77, the 98, the 61,000 are in units. Well, to do a purchases budget, which is Schedule 3, I gotta get it to how we purchase it, and this is by pound of berries. So I'm converting the units to pounds here. $38,500 pounds. In October is what's needed. In November, it's 49,000 pounds. In December, 30,500. These are all pounds now. So I've converted it from units to pounds. Now I can use the 3%, and now I can use this beginning balance of 1,625 pounds of berries. So at this point now, I want to grab 3% and add it to my desired level of production, 38.5. So 3% times 49,000 gives me 1,470 pounds. I add it. And then I subtract the beginning, which is 1,625 pounds. So my desired purchase level then for berries is 38,345 pounds. Now what do I multiply the pounds by?
Is it the 60 cents?
Yeah, the 60 cents. So now I'm going to convert the pounds to dollars. Carla, do you have that amount?
23,000.
And I pay, since we're tracking the November, right, is what I want, the November. These purchases are paid for 60% in the following month. So my number here is for November. $13,804.80 or 20 cents. That's what it should be. So we gotta do November yet, still needed. So I'm gonna grab December's level and multiply that by 3%. 915. Add that, makes it 49,915, and I subtract the 1470, which was the ending in October. So I'm adding the desired, subtracting the beginning to get what's left, which is 48,000 pounds, 48,445 pounds. Again, you purchase them for 60 cents a pound. Gives me $29,067, of which we pay 40% in the month. Like I said, oh boy.
No,
Brianna,
I'm just,
oh.
is it a coincidence? Because we had those numbers at the end when you did it the other way.
Really?
Yeah,
I could have kept going?
I guess.
This is the better way though. This is how it should have been. So the question is, how much did I pay out in November? We add these two. 60% of the October purchases were paid in November. 40% of the November was paid in November. We add those two together. $25,431. This is probably your most complex problem that you'll encounter on the exam. So if you do come around on Thursday, it may be a good idea to show your work on some of these longer problems like this one, or a type like this one, just to see how far you did get before it went awry. Okay? So I can give partial credit. It really does help me in that regard. What do you think, guys? Does that make sense? We're basically doing that purchases budget for this particular question. All right, let's take a look at the next one. And now I'm a little gun shy. So let's take a look at the entire question. Bickford plans to sell 125 units in November, 170 in December. Bickford's policy is that 10% of next month's sale must be in ending inventory. At the beginning of November, there were 13,000 units in inventory. It takes 30 minutes of labor to make 1 unit. Labor wages average 17 per hour. Variable overhead rate is 5 per hour. Fixed is 56,500 per month. What is the budgeted overhead for November? Wow, okay. Lots of things going on here. We start out with units, right? You've got to be able to convert that to hours. Once I have the hours, I can use my overhead rate of 5, and I'm going to add my fixed cost to it. So how would you guys do this problem? Where would we start? we gotta get the hours, right? The labor hours. So if I'm looking at November, I've got to convert this to a production budget. So we have sales of 125,000 units. December we want 170, right? Those are in units. I'm going to do a schedule 2 here at this point. So the desired ending is what percent? 10. So I'm going to add to my 125 17,000 units, which gives me 142. In units, right? How many units did I have in beginning? 13. This is my beginning. Units. Please be aware, we add the ending, right? Add the ending units desired. We subtract the beginning. 129. Thank you, Allison. So that's our production needs for November. Now I can take this number times, how many hours does it take to make 1 unit? Half an hour. So these are units. I'm going to multiply by half an hour to make 1 unit, to convert the units to hours. So 64,500. Is that right? Now, it talks about labor wage of 17 per hour. Do we even need that? In this case, we don't, because what are we searching for? The overhead, the budgeted overhead. And what does overhead always consist of? Both a variable, right, and a fixed. So we got to add those two together in this particular case. So the rate is $5 per hour for overhead. That's our predetermined rate. $5 per hour times 64,500. $322,500. But remember, that's only the variable cost for this particular month. So I want to add the 56,500 fixed cost to our number. 379. Now these questions, these two, all of these actually, I got right from the test. I'm just changing the numbers. So it's a good, sometimes I've concentrated a lot on their budget reports, and then when the students see this question on the test, they have no idea how to start. So this is a practice in doing that analysis, knowing basically what schedule to use to get the information needed.
So this one, we would do the budgeted overhead schedule.
Basically, yeah. But in order to do that, Allison, what did I need? I needed the hours. And the only way to get the hours is to figure out how many units I was going to make. Yeah. So it's a two-step, three-step process to get to the answer. It's not a quick and easy computation. All right. The next couple are, I think, easier. So let's take a look at this next one. Here they're making sneakers. Production of their new sneaker for the coming 3 months is budgeted as follows. Each sneaker takes 2.5 hours to make. The labor wages averages $16 an hour. Monthly rate is $9 per hour. Fixed overhead is $5,500. What is the total overhead for the month of September? Okay, so we're only concerned about September. These are already production needs. So there's no mention about desired ending inventory. There's no mention about beginning inventory, right? So we're already got that number. Remember the last problem? What did they give us? The sale units. So that's why I had to do the schedule 2 to get the production units to get the labor hours. On this problem, it's easier. They already gave us the production units versus sale units. Does everybody see the difference between the two problems? The first one had sale units. I had to convert to production. These are already at the production level. So schedule 2 is done. So at this point, what do I need to do? I can just take the 51,000, convert it to hours, which is the 2.5 per unit. Gives me a total level of $127,500 hours. And what do I multiply that by? The 9, because that's our variable overhead rate. Does someone have that?
1,147,500.
Oh, you went too fast, Brianna. Sorry.
1,147,500.
Seems like a big number, but that's what it is. And then, obviously, I need my fixed overhead, which makes it really look odd, doesn't it? Of 5,500. Okay. And then let me just add those two together, right? So now we're at 1,153. If I carry my 1 correctly. So our budgeted overhead for this month of September is 1,153,000. Lot simpler. Now, let's make an assumption here. I can make this question a little bit differently. What if this was for the year instead of 1 month? My production level for the year is 51,000. I do the same thing, right, for variable, but what would I have to do if this 5,500 was per month.
Times that by 12.
Yeah, you gotta times it by 12 to get the annual budget. So watch for whether it's a month or if it's for the year budget level. In some cases, you will have to multiply the monthly amount by 12 to get the yearly amount. Obviously, with variable, it's based on an hour. It doesn't care whether it's a month or a year, right? It's based on the hours. Before I leave these two problems, can you go back to the sale one? I'm going to put this in red. Remember, on the test, you will have a sales budget to do, you'll have a production budget to do, and you'll have a disbursements budget to do, right? Or materials budget to do. Those three are the first three budgets. Schedule 1, 2, and 3 are on the test for, I don't know, a couple months. Kind of like your project. But remember, I don't have to give you the beginning units, right? Looking at this problem, if I didn't give you the 13,000, what should be the beginning balance? We have to use the percent, right? But what is the percent on?
The 125.
The 125, very good. So what technically should be the beginning balance in units B then instead of 13,000?
12,000.
Yeah. So the author did pick a close number, but not the exact number. Remember, if I had the month of October sitting here, right? Just as an example, I don't know what the sale or what the units would be, the sale units would be, but wouldn't I take the 10% of the 125 to get the ending number, right? And whatever the ending number is the beginning for the next period.
Okay.
So watch for that. Sometimes I give it to you, other times you gotta figure it out. Usually I have a question when a student, they come up for a question, this is what it is. You never gave me the beginning number. I don't have to, okay? In some cases you might have to compute it yourself. All right, the last one then, guys, is another cash flow. Like I said, these are probably the easiest problems. But again, students sometimes miss them. What month are we looking for?
February.
February. Yay. How much was collected in February? So we have a schedule here. It says the company has the following receivables collection pattern: 35 in the month, 65 in the month following. All sales are on credit. That's huge. That helps a lot. So we don't have to worry about cash sales then, right? So of the amounts here, the January's is at 250. February's is at 120. Remember, I'm collecting in February, so what percent of January do I use?
65?
Pardon?
For 65?
Yes. Why is it 65 and not 35?
The month following.
Yep, next month, right? So common mistake, students will use 35 on the January number and 65 on the February. Easy to do. Okay, that's it. 65 and 35 in the month. And can someone help me with the numbers here?
162,500.
And
42,000.
you can't stop there, right? $204, 500. Hopefully that one's a slam dunk, hopefully, right? Remember though, guys, letter A's answer is 204, 500, right? B's answer is going to be 42,000. C's answer is going to be 162,500. See how tricky that can make it? So here again, the student does it correctly on paper, but gives me the wrong answer. So watch the month. What month are they looking for? Okay. All right. That's what I have for my review. And please watch those definitions. Make sure you get those. They're in the book. I do want to make one more comment. The author used a lot of things for their budget reports. One's called a static budget. Static budget. What is that? That's the before the tax. Before the tax. Before the year schedule. Look at page 477 of your book is an example of a static budget report. You'll be asked questions on that, what that report does or says, what's on the report. 477. I'm just going to jump to there quickly. The budget units were 1,060. The actual units produced were 1,200. A static budget doesn't flex to the 1,200 unit level. The budget stays the same. Is the static budget still important? Yes, it is still important. Why? Because we had a goal to make 1,060 units, right? We did 1,200. Is that a good job? Heck yes, it's a very good job. So that's what this report does. It's the original foundation as to how we set up our budget. It is still a very important report called a static. What does static mean? It means stationary. Doesn't change. Now, if you turn the page over, is an example of a flexible budget. How do I know that? Is my budget level has flexed to 1,200 now. So if you notice, I'm comparing 1,200 produced, actual units produced, and guess what? My budget level is now 1,200. That means it's flexed. Flexed means change. I changed it to the actual level of activity. This is where we can judge our variances more appropriately. This is also known as a performance report. If I'm going to judge a manager's performance, this is the report I want to use. I flexed it to the actual production that really will show me the variances correctly. And then thirdly is a before-the-fact flexible budget. That's on page 476. Example 9.13. What do you notice about a before-the-fact? Different scenarios, right? There's 1,000 units, there's 1,200 units, there's 1,400 units. It gives a company the ability to see what their costs would be at different levels of production. So again, before the fact, before the year starts. So know the difference between those three different report styles. Because the author will just say, on the before the fact, you got to know what that means. Okay? What's on it? What does it show? Would I see a variance on a before the fact? No. I don't know what the actual is, right? I would see a variance on the after the fact. And I do see a variance on a static one as well, right? Okay, good. I think I'm done now. That's it, guys. The rest of the class is yours to work with your partner or assignments. If you're finished, great, great job. If I don't see you on Thursday, I'll see you next Tuesday. We'll be starting chapter 11.